Going to do something a little different today, bit of a science experiment. While my personal preference is for light roasts and modern extractions, that's not what most people think of when you talk about espresso, which is thick, rich, probably an intensely bitter Italian-style dark roast. And while I personally don't like drinking that sort of espresso very much, as a coffee person, it's hard not to appreciate that aesthetic. And at the top of the visual coffee satisfaction index is that pale, velvety substance commonly known as crema that floats at the top of espresso like frothy beige whipped cream. Most people interpret a healthy layer of crema as an indicator of a well-pulled shot, or that the beans are fresh. And there's plenty of truth to those 2 points, but there are a number of variables that limit or enhance production of crema, like temperature, pressure, style of roast, fineness of grind, type of coffee also play big roles. But put simply, crema is just the super concentrated outgassing of CO2 in your coffee. It's really not an accurate indicator of whether or not your espresso will taste good. In fact, up until about 1950, when Giovanni Aciligaja coined the term crema, it was considered an unpleasant-looking residue, caffè feccia, or coffee scum, or schiuma, meaning foam, not to be confused with spuma, which also means foam in Italian, though spuma relates to a very nice culinary foam, whereas schiuma suggests more like lather or a dog foaming at the mouth. Anyway, Gaggia's rebranding of this high-pressure coffee byproduct certainly made a long-lasting impression. And today, instead of spooning it off the top of your espresso and throwing it out, people are watching videos to see how to make as much of it as possible. Precisely what I'm going to be doing today. Phase 1 of my crema experiment is going to be testing 3 coffees to see which produces the most crema at baseline. I'll be pulling pretty straightforward shots, nothing fancy for this part, using the same 14 to 16 gram basket for each shot, and the 3 types of beans here have been selected for their high potential at yielding nice crema. First up is Bird Rock Roaster's Monkey Bite Espresso Blend. This is my personal favorite medium to dark roast blend, and in my opinion, it's one of the best coffees on the market for cappuccinos and lattes. And while I wouldn't prefer it as a straight shot, it's actually not that bad that way. I frequently get this coffee around Christmas time to go with all the homemade traditional Italian food I like to make, like sfogliatelle and cannoli and tiramisu. And it's been hard not to notice it produces a lot of picturesque crema, and usually not foamy but creamy without a lot of bubbles. Pulling this shot pretty straight, just a quick pre-infusion, basically until the first few drops come through, then pulling down at firm pressure. Consensus is that you need at least 6 bars to produce crema, and that with the Cremina lever machine, 6 bars of pressure starts to tip the machine over. I'm going beyond that into the firm range. I'm forcing this through hard enough that I need to provide a good amount of resistance weight with my second hand. Normally I'd lean towards lower pressure and taper the second half of the shot towards a lighter flow for improved flavor, but these things should physically produce less crema. Plus, if I just force flow each shot, I'll get a more stable constant for the experiment. I'd say this looks like a pretty good amount of crema, but doesn't really have any wow factor to it. According to the label, these beans were roasted about a week ago, so the age should be pretty much ideal. Things I could try to boost the crema amount are grinding finer, maybe increasing the dosage. A deeper basket and thicker puck would help. Next up is something I would never drink personally. It's the Super Crema Espresso Blend from commercial coffee producer Lavazza. You can probably tell by the name, this is marketed to indicate that it makes crema. It's my understanding that this is heavily cut with Robusta beans, about a 60-40 split as opposed to Arabica. Robusta not historically known for quality taste, but rather for hardiness. Cutting coffee with these tougher beans was a traditional barista trick to produce thicker body and more crema. Despite never trying this coffee before, I figured it was appropriate for the experiment. I expect this to produce quite a lot of crema, but taste pretty bad. It does not smell very nice. Lots of notes of ashtray and tire rubber. No offense to anyone who likes this. This is just not considered a specialty roaster coffee in terms of quality, but it is readily available on Amazon and quite inexpensive, $20 for a 2-pound bag. The roast date factor is a negative for this coffee as it relates to the experiment, but my feeling is that the dark roast and high Robusta content should make up for this, although a quick scan of the bag suggests the coffee was roasted within a month of its use today, which isn't too bad considering it was ordered on Amazon. I was not impressed with the crema amount produced by the so-called super crema. Maybe the month-old factor was the problem because I actually went and pulled multiple shots of this separately with pretty much the same results. I tried tasting this with an open mind, and my first sip off the spoon was not as bad as expected, but gosh, it had a really bad aftertaste, and it did seem to get worse the more I drank it. The third and final coffee in this test is Paradise Roaster's Dark Roast Espresso Blend. I tried Paradise Roasters a few months ago when I first moved back to Hawaii, and I've been pretty impressed with them. I did a separate video reviewing them overall as a roaster, and I ordered their medium and dark roast espresso blends specifically for this experiment. Yesterday I did a little showdown between the medium and the dark, and unsurprisingly the dark produced more crema than the medium, so the dark is the only one I'm using here today in the experiment. The dark roast espresso blend from Paradise was the clear winner here, producing a shot that was about 60% crema, although a lot of that dissipated very quickly, and the Monkey Bite, in my opinion, is much better tasting. Still, now that I have a crema winner, I'm going to pull a few more shots with it with a few changing variables to see if I can get a better crema yield. And I'll try the following: grinding finer, pulling at higher pressure, comparing the stock Cremina basket with an IMS basket, and dosing more volume. Grinding finer did not seem to improve crema output. This probably means my initial grind size was ideal. 1 or 2 dial sizes finer didn't change crema output, but did make the shot struggle to pull through the puck. And 3 sizes finer actually reduced crema output while choking the machine and preventing adequate flow, and also made the shots taste significantly worse. I think the standard coffee logic remains: coarser grinds will provide less resistance and less body, but better taste, and too coarse will produce less crema and flow too fast, usually causing under extraction. Somewhat fine grinds are needed for crema, but there is such a thing as too fine. Pulling at a higher pressure gave a nominal boost to crema amount, but like grinding too fine, it also made the shot taste worse. It also seemed like the high pressure shots made much more effervescent, sudsy crema, which flattened even quicker, as opposed to a moderate or even light pressure shot using something like Monkey Bite, for instance, where the crema output was not quite as high, but the fluidity was creamy and stable. The different baskets made a difference, but I wouldn't say one basket is better than the other. The IMS baskets I used for this comparison were lower volume than the stock baskets, 12 to 14 grams versus 14 to 16 grams. This is what made the difference. Higher volume baskets will consistently produce more crema. This is pretty much going to be a rule of physics. A triple basket will give a more stable puck than a single basket. More volume made a noticeable impact. Only 0.3 of a gram more did bump crema output, though it slowed the flow of the shot considerably and required more effort to pull. Not to mention, it made the coffee have a longer, more bitter finish, less subtle, more burnt tasting. But this shot was the most crema output of the experiment. It was about 90% crema, but only for an instant really, sinking to about 40% within only a few seconds. And I'll pull one more, kind of bringing everything together. So what did we learn today? Well, my observations indicate that freshness is probably the single biggest contributing factor to crema production. Dosage, or volume, is also important. Basket size makes a difference as well, especially as it relates to volume at least. Grind size matters also, but finding the sweet spot is what matters most there. Roast can also make a big difference. Anecdotally, despite its disappointing results, I believe that super crema, or at least something like it, a dark roast cut with Robusta beans, is likely going to be capable of creating the most crema you could possibly conjure. However, I believe that to accomplish this, it also needs to be freshly roasted, probably within a week or 2 of use. Otherwise, too much of the necessary CO2 cell structure will have already naturally emitted itself from the beans. So that, plus a deep basket, like a triple or quad, slightly overdosed, at the ideal grind size and at moderately high pressure, will be giving you the most impressive crema yield possible.
Like me, there can be only one.